Hi everyone, we are live on our Spirit Walk page.
Welcome to Spirit Walk
Hello.
channel where we talk about all kinds of awesome and amazing things, both energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, that you might have run along to
These journeys, or you might have questions about. So we try to make sure our titles are out there so people can view us. I know we've had some questions and inquiries. We're not here to offend anybody. We're just here to share our perceptions of what we have experienced along our paths and our journeys, and hopefully it'll help somebody else out there that's been asking the same things. So
no, you're not weird. It's normal.
It's so normal.
We're going to talk about some weird things, which I'm super excited about because I like talking about all the weird.
I like talking about all the weird too. Like I think there's not enough people to talk about the weird. Man,
it's true.
I'm gonna pull my shirt up because it makes me feel more comfortable. All right. So
I do love that necklace, the white one.
This one, yeah, I just got it for my sister.
It reminds me of like Egyptian style with the white crackle. I don't know why, but when it's put with the copper, that's what I think of.
Aww.
I love it.
I do like it. I like this necklace a lot.
Stuff.
What we're gonna do.
I totally just had inspiration.
Oh, good. I'm so glad my necklace has helped you out today.
It's exciting, y'all. You never know when inspiration will strike you.
You never know.
But I just had this beautiful inspiration for a background with Egyptian things in it, and it was gold and pretty and had little statues and I was like, oh, Egyptian. Love it.
Yep. Yes, we're redoing our background. Sorry, guys. I didn't do a very good job today.
Wow, that was perfect.
Got to get the Halloween stuff out.
We got our
some gourds. Can't really see much.
We got our
tapestry. Needs some help, but
there we are. We only need the bottom part anyway. Right?
It's really we only do unless we move it down. But it's yeah.
We're just working in the feet.
We're just working on that, root chakra stuff.
It's true. That has been a huge theme this year.
It has been a huge thing. Staying in the body, staying in the identity, clearing out those things.
Yep.
Realize a lot of people realizing that that grounding is a thing.
Oh, yeah. Taking ourselves out of our head.
I've had a lot of people saying lately, somebody just said to me, I love her very dearly, but I'm not going to, I never will mention names on here. I will not bring other people in here. That I am professional. But she was like, man, my sister was one of those weirdos, that talked about all the weird stuff. And, my whole family, we thought she was crazy. She goes, now I'm sitting here in my life. I'm like, what is this vibrational thing? Because I really think I need it in my life. She goes, I need to get my vibration up. I'm like, it really is a thing. And
I love it.
I love it too. And I'm really, really excited of what's changing, not just in our country here in America, but what's changing across the world and the unity that is growing. And us all connecting consciously, and not just based on what country we live in, but as a world, as a human being. Human consciousness is waking up so much, and it just makes me really, really, really happy that I get to experience this and be here during this time. So
it's definitely going to be interesting.
So we get to talk about some really great stuff. I've had some strange things happen to me my whole entire life. When I got into journeying through the path that I am on and trying to get closer and closer, being spiritually awakening and working on my ascension and what that means, and working on my own emotional energy body, and really trying to just not know that there's a consciousness to connect to, but actually be connected to that consciousness. And when you open up things like that, strange things start to happen, like out-of-body experiences, which is what we're going to talk about today, and astral travel or astral projection, and how to know the difference if you're having a dream, which is your subconscious talking to you, or you're actually having an experience and you're no longer in the body, and how to know the difference between that and how it can correlate to past lives. So that's why I threw the past lives also in this addition here, so that you can recognize when you're having different experiences. A lot of people a big thing that a lot of people have a hard time with is, or it freaks them out because it is a scary experience.
Can definitely be spooky.
It can be spooky,
Any
especially
one of those can be spooky,
when you come back to your body and you decide to wake up before you are fully back inside the body, and your whole body goes numb,
right.
and you can't move, and you're vibrating, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening to me right now? Why can't I move? And everything is just echoing off of your body. You're like, oh my gosh, that really does scare people.
Yes.
Like quite a bit. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm being possessed, or something evil's holding on to me, and I'm not saying that those things aren't happening. Most likely that's not what's happening though. Like, it's been happening for a very long time. People have had these things happening, and doctors cannot explain what's happening. They can't find anything medically wrong with you because you went all those avenues and you're having a lot of those experiences. You're having out of body experiences. Nonetheless, if you remember where you went or not, that's a whole nother different thing. And remembering where you went and what your body, what your soul was doing, what your energy source was doing, and why it decided to leave the body. Like that's a whole nother different thing, which I have had those experiences. But I've also had experiences where I've woken up and I'm like, man, I can't really move, or I feel so awkward, and I'm wondering what's going on. And I don't remember my dreams. I don't remember anything that happened. I didn't remember anything significant, but apparently I was actually going somewhere, and I was actually doing something. So.
Oh yeah. I remember some of the conversations we had a little over a year ago where we talked about those experiences, right? Where we were talking about the sleep paralysis or waking up, not really knowing where you are.
We've had this conversation so many different times.
I remember specifically like some of the first times, because I always get surprised when people are like, oh, I had this experience. And I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And for me, we end up in that conversation a lot because I'm one of those people that are always going through other people's pages and reading all of their stuff. And then people get so confused, and then like everybody's on this march of it's something bad's happening to you, and I'm like, no, there's you can't just sit there and be like, this is what's happening, and then and I do that. I try to put it out there as much as I can on these pages, but sometimes these pages can get kind of crazy.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen some people really get really mean to other people when they try to express themselves in their experience and what happened in their perceptions. And we won't do that here. We're not going to do that to you. And I'm not trying to do that in the moment. But people need to stop being scared, unless you're waking up and you're actually physically hurt
going on.
and physically have something going on. I wouldn't worry about it as much as what some people out there might say you need to worry. And that's just what is that? Just a lack of, I'm trying to say the nicest
understanding.
Way. Lack of understanding, lack of perspective.
Like, I've personally never like gotten upset over somebody's opinion of sharing an experience. Like, people don't get upset over somebody else's experience. That's not my experience,
Mm-hmm.
I never understood that though about some of the bigger groups that get into those topics, because then, especially when it comes to like when you're coming back and you don't have control over your body, there are legit medical things that could be going on.
Correct.
That just are going on undiagnosed. And so, who are we to?
No, that's why I stated what I stated before that. Like, if you're going and these are happening to you, and then you can't figure out anything medically what's wrong with you,
you might be leaving your body.
You might just be leaving your body. And unfortunately, Western medicine hasn't quite caught up to the concept of what's going on with the soul energy,
right? Consciousness.
And the consciousness. Yeah. We do have evidence out there that those things do exist scientifically, which is really, really great to watch that expand, and watching a lot of medical doctors and different people getting on board with holistic care and getting on board with the energy body and watching it change. I've seen people change their lives completely, health-wise, mentally, where they're at, where they've gone, by taking up some of these basic understandings and applying them to their life. And meditation, DNA replication. There's so many different things, different energy therapies, and just going holistic route. When I'm saying that I've seen experiences, is I've seen people change their health when people have told them there was nothing they could do for them. Like that really does exist. There's a reason why shamans still exist today. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason why people all over the world seek these people out. It's because, well, besides the fact of wanting to live, the need to live, and but these people who really want to live that won't take no for an answer, they go these routes, and then voila, something miraculous happens, and they can't explain scientifically what that is, so they don't put it out there, especially in our country, in America. You go to a different culture, and it's different. They're like, why wouldn't you go see your shaman? Why haven't you, used these routes? And we look at them like it's a foreign language, like, oh, you're way back in the decades. They're like, no, we still use this stuff today, and it works all the time. Like,
well, and I feel that's one of the things that's going to start to shift over like the next 5 or 6 years is the blending with the medical community, with the holistic side of it. Especially with all the studies coming out with meditation, especially like, and what it can do. Not just for you mentally, but the way they're tracking blood pressure with it and stress in the body and all that kind of stuff.
No, they're actually.
I want to be a part of that wave.
So as some of you guys know, I've studied massage and different forms of holistic health forms throughout the years. I think I've been on that kick for about 10-15 years now, understanding the body and understanding different holistic things that we could be utilizing versus Western medicine. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no place for Western medicine, because that is not true. There is a balance that needs to happen with the way we look at health, and that is definitely changing drastically. And it has been, progressively been changing over the last 10 years. And that's why you see a lot more massage therapists in our country. That's why you see a lot more energy workers in our country. That's why you see a lot more counseling in those types of jobs progressing greatly, and a lot more people seeking out different kinds of work that even me and Amanda are talking about today with what we do. So yeah, it's definitely been changing, of course, for quite some years now. So we're finally going to be able to see that flourish and bloom.
I'll be excited for that, because I know it's starting to happen in different areas all over, and I'll be excited when it happens in our area, because I feel like we'll get to partake in that.
There's already a really great groundwork where we're even at of people starting to get together, and I really love that.
Sure. But out-of-body experiences, let's talk about what they are first of all, which is having the ability to we have a visitor.
We do have a visitor.
Talking about having the ability to take your consciousness and move it outside of your mind, outside of your physical mind, into higher states of reality and existence. When our consciousness pulls out of the body, usually in dream time, that's probably the most common when I see people talk about it. Second most common is through meditation. People in meditation, like I know that was my first out-of-body experience, was actually in meditation, because I didn't know that was possible or a thing to do, and it was quite intimidating at the time. And I was a teenager, and going through that experience, not knowing that that's what it was, I think was super surreal, because nothing in the physical was physical anymore. The people were like balls of energy and light, and there was sound and vibration coming off from them. And it was a totally different experience than what I anticipated it being. And it confused me, because I was like, oh man, like the house is still here and everything, but the people are just like these weird wobbly things everywhere. But I could hear them, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. And that was one of my first out-of-body experiences. And then coming back into the body was like, how do I was looking at myself, and I was like, how do I get back in there? Like, do I just like sit down and I just like reabsorb? And that didn't work, by the way. The first time I did it, I actually had to like feed myself back into my chakra system,
Mhm.
which started a long line of meditations in attempt to understand what had happened. So the most common is people leaving their body when they go to sleep. The mind changes and allows the doorway to open for people to go around. And then there's meditation, where people can go in and actively strive for that type of thing to happen, to either have experiences or be shown things, be taught things. I know I've been taught a lot
I've been taught
through meditation.
a lot through meditation
my
about
body.
myself, being able to view and understand
Like,
past lives and being able to connect to those different things, which is fantastic. We can reach a lot of different things in a meditation state.
Got it. Save the day.
Saving the day.
And we, I know for me, that was just a huge stepping stone of experiences for me that opened up my whole world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Meditation
Yeah.
is major if you really want to make leaps and bounds through anything that you're trying to manifest into your life. Understanding of your own self and your own soul, and just for stress.
Yeah.
Majorly
Yeah.
for stress, and to get rid of all of these things that are attaching themselves to you, just to feel, to take a breathing, doing breathing exercises during meditation. Major.
That's one of the things people would ask me about, like, well, how do you just leave the body, right? Like, how do you choose to have an out-of-body experience? Breath work is a huge one.
Huge.
Because when you're not in your body, that's what is really focused on, that lifeline with your consciousness, so that you're still attached. And breath is huge with that.
Breath is huge. Understanding the body is a huge one too.
Yeah.
Being able to understand what's going on, because if you can start to slip out, and if you don't know what's going on, you're like, oh, nope. Yeah, I don't want any of that, you know? And then a lot of people get scared too, that if they leave their body, how are they going to get back in?
No.
And they're afraid to have that experience. I've had some people that have come to us, they're like, I don't want you to do that to me.
Yeah.
I can't leave my body.
Which makes sense. It's definitely a fear, because
It
we
is a
associate
fear.
it with death. If we leave the body, we're dying.
Yeah.
Even though that's not true.
Or my favorite
different
one is
levels.
that your body can be possessed.
Oh,
if you leave it.
Yeah.
And
Which
people
is
get scared about that too.
Way more complicated than what people
So much more complex. And how much that actually happens, is so rare for that to even happen.
And you could have an out-of-body experience where you're literally like, oh my gosh, I just was looking at my body from the ceiling. Yep, that's an out-of-body experience. Yep. Or it could be like, oh my gosh, I literally went through all of these layers of life and gold and experience. Yep, that's an out-of-body experience too. Big or small.
My favorite out-of-body experience, that was long. Like, I felt like I was, and I didn't even realize what was going on at first. And it was, I would have to say, I think it instantly started happening the minute that I went out. Mine was during sleep. And it was long. And I can tell you guys that one in particular happened now, I'm going to say almost 3 years ago. And I still could not forget every little tiny detail of that experience.
Yep, that's the thing that happens too.
I cannot forget any of it. It is relevant still into my brain. I can go back to it and check every little thing, to what I was wearing, to the colors that I've seen, to the people's faces, to the detail of every little thing that happened to me when I had this experience. And then even over time, I can relate it to what they were telling me and what they were teaching me in that moment, and how it has affected my life even today. And some of it was warning, some of it was expression, some of it was allowing me to see a little bit deeper. And I always go back to that one in particular, because when I came back to my body, it woke me up before I even, and I knew what was happening at that point. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening right now. And I'm like, my memory of it was just so strong.
Yeah.
And when I came back to the body, I couldn't move for a good hour, you guys. I could not move. I kept on trying to reach my phone, like, I gotta get a hold of Amanda. Like, I can't sleep. And you're like, you're wide awake. So I'm sitting there and I'm wide awake and my body is vibrating so much. I felt like I could still feel the ceiling. And but yet I was in the body and the body couldn't move.
Yeah.
So, and I was like that for a good hour.
Oh yeah.
For a good hour. It was a long time, you guys. And I'd sit there and then eventually I could start feeling my toes. And I could start moving my legs a little bit, my fingers, you know, and even then, like, it took me a while to really, and then I didn't go back to bed. And this was like 4 a.m. finally when I could start moving and I was up. I was so energized. I had so much energy. There was no going back to bed. I'm sitting here, who can I get a hold of at 4 o'clock in the morning that's not going to think I'm crazy and tell them what just happened to me and where I went and who I talked to. And it was amazing. That was one of my favorite experiences and I'll never forget it ever. So, and and now I know what to, since that moment, like I've had quite a few different things happen, but never quite that long and never quite that intense the way that was intense for me. I've had some intense things happen, but never quite like that one was for me. Even the ones before that were minute, I feel, of my meditational going into the body and feeling myself lift up and go into different things. Like I feel like I can do that easily. And that's where it goes to how far did I go?
Right.
How far did I go to have that intense feeling on my body? And that's a whole nother thing about astral projection or out-of-body experiences is the more that it affects you when you come back to the body, explains how long you were gone, how deep into it you were,
what frequency you were in, and
frequency,
how compatible it is with the physical body. Like, because some of that frequency, especially in those places where you have that paralysis, that's a really high frequency, and you're just vibrating everywhere. And that stuff takes time to come down from, y'all. Don't rush it.
Don't rush.
I personally can't. I keep shaking the table. Sorry.
No.
Sorry. I'm rubbing away on my little rose quartz. It feels nice.
Does it feel nice?
It does. I remember that. Yeah, I remember when you were having that experience. And I'm trying to remember one of the first times I had actual paralysis. But now, when I travel, it's so common. I don't even have a label for it because I'm just like, oh, I'm just waiting to get back to control of my body because I'll come into my body and just lay there waiting for it to come back, and every once in a while I'll try to move a finger or a toe or something. But that experience where you went and had that whole experience of multiple different things all rolled into
so
one,
much stuff.
That's another thing. Like when you have an out-of-body experience, 9 times out of 10 you're there to learn something, and you're there to observe something that you may or may not have been aware of, or putting the pieces together. And so much of it can be so cryptic. Like it's either cryptic or it's like a riddle and you're trying to figure out what the imagery is because you're like, well, I saw this, this, and this, and it didn't make any sense. But if it was the way that your brain would accept information, it would make sense, and you have to like unfold it. And that's always a process in and of itself, I think, for people, because it took me a long time to piece together some of the things from that first experience of going out of my body.
And then bringing it back and then applying it to your life. Like, okay.
Like, oh, okay, that's a thing. And then actually doing it on purpose. Like that was another thing. Like, oh, I didn't know I could do that on purpose.
Well, I already knew you could do it on purpose when that experience happened to me. That was just a really intense one.
I want to hear some of y'all's experiences. Do you get sleep paralysis? Do you leave the body? Do you have dreams that you remember vividly or maybe not at all? I know some dreams that I had that were me traveling. I didn't know that you had to work to lucid dream. I thought everybody had lucid dreams because I am one of those people that I know when I'm sleeping. And when early on, when I was doing that, it always confused me because when I did learn of, why can't I think of the term now? I just had it. Where you're in control of the dream. Like when I learned about that style of dreaming, everybody was like, well, yeah, you use it to control your dream or like influence things if you're having a nightmare so you can change it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, I'm almost, not always, most of the time, I'm aware that I'm dreaming. And now if I have that awareness, I can change my dream. That's so cool. No. When you are traveling in your dream, you don't get to change the dream. The dream is the way it is for a reason. And it took me diligent practice trying to change those experiences. Like, oh, I don't like the feel of this. I'm just going to shift it a little. And I would shift it and it would immediately come back. And I'm like, what is this?
Immediately.
Change it, immediately goes back. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a big scary thing in the corner. I'm just going to get rid of that.
That's also a really big clue to anybody who tries to do that and it doesn't do that there's a message in that dream.
Exactly.
Or you're experiencing something that happened in a past life.
Right.
Or literally some guides are coming down. They're like, hey, we're going to show you something really cool right now.
Yes.
Or,
I learned something.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to figure that out. When I did, my dreams went much smoother because then I shifted from the.
It's funny. I'm sitting here trying to imagine you doing this. I'm like, did she learn something that I'm like, oh, I see where you're going with this. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense because you really don't get to control it and choose it. Actually, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper for you. Our human body's perception can't choose it. Our soul purpose, our energy already chose it.
Exactly. Already had it going.
And it's out of our human control, you guys.
Once I figured out that I wasn't changing it, even though I was aware it was happening, I shifted into, okay, if I can't change it, I must be an observer. And that's when I shifted to, okay, I know I'm dreaming. Now I would start to ask questions like, where am I? And then the scenery would change a little. Or things would open up and it'd be like, we want you to go here. I was much more open to being guided through the out-of-body experience when I became the observer and stopped trying to control everything. When I figured out that's what was happening. So, word of the wise.
I did that. I feel like I did that naturally through my very vivid and crazy dreams that I was like, oh, no, I'm going to go with this because I'm weirdo like that. You know what I mean? What kind of cool dream am I going to remember tomorrow? And when I was younger, I didn't realize it actually meant something.
Right.
And now I'm going back and like, I'm able to go because they were so vivid. Some of my dreams were so vivid. It's like, I can't forget that experience.
Right.
And
I remember a lot.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I started applying it to everything that I was doing now. I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. And then I think about the time of my life where I was at having those experiences.
Right.
I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, if I would have known a little bit more in my human experience what was happening to me, I'm like, I might have went through that lesson a little bit easier.
We all go through it in our divine timing. I love it. But yeah, hey, we made it to almost 30 minutes.
We did make it to almost 30 minutes. I'm surprised right now.
No, it's great. So we would love to hear from any of you guys. Share with us an experience or dream you've had. We will be here again next Thursday here on Spirit Walk.
Is it next Thursday? We will not be here on Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh.
We will not be here on Thanksgiving Day. Is that next week already?
I think it might be.
I don't think it is. I think it's the week after.
Week after. Thursday. A Thursday that's not Turkey Day, we'll be here talking about all kinds of awesome, crazy things like we are today and sharing experiences with y'all. If you haven't checked us out yet, pop on over to Facebook and go to Awakened Mind Facebook page. Check out our events. We have 2 things coming up. They are all virtual right now. We're doing everything online. We have Tea and Tarot, which is always free. It's coming up on Friday. And then we have the Energy Basics class, which is also virtual. All of those events are over on the page. So go check us out if you haven't already. Please like this video and subscribe and click the bell and get notifications so that we pop up whenever we go live. I love doing live.
Me too.
It's way more, shall we say, exciting.
It's so exciting. I'm learning this thing. It's like poke your face out and it lets the light shine on your face better. But then you got to elongate your neck.
Elongate.
Your neck to get the perfect.
The more we do it, the more fun we have.
And look at that. Look, I'm doing, see, I look more professional. It's perfect that way.
I'm
over here like this.
Relaxed.
Sorry.
We love you guys. We hope that you've enjoyed our time together today. Check us out every Thursday. Go check us out on Facebook. That's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Peace, y'all. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.
See you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.